Hey ladies, today I am about to do something that I have never done before. So I highly recommend grabbing a notebook or something that you can just jot down a few key takeaways, because this training is going to go super in depth and show you the exact step-by-step process I've used that has helped over 600 women lose 20 to 30 pounds in a 16-week time frame and maintain it eating 500 to 1,100 more calories a day without cutting carbs, fasting, working out 6 days a week. We are breaking away from the burn more, restrict more mindset and falling back in love with what our bodies can do. So, as you watch this video, I want you to be able to understand a few key things. First, I want you to be able to remove the question mark as to why you have not been making the progress that you have been looking for. I also want you to understand that as we strive to create and make that progress, we can build our bodies up in the process. What we're doing now should not tank our hormones, our energy, our metabolism, and make us feel mentally foggy. What we're doing now should allow us to go into these later stages and phases of life stronger, more energetic, and more capable so we can continue to thrive. And finally, I want you to be able to stop second guessing yourself. We spend so much mental energy on taking care of so many other people in our lives. I want you to be able to take away the burden that you've been putting on yourself and know that we can create external confidence for sure, but you can also create internal confidence in knowing that you are doing exactly what you need to do to show up as your best self. So keep watching if right now you feel like maybe your body is just revolting against you. What you've tried in the past just isn't working anymore. It feels like your body is resisting everything. Maybe you are already eating super clean and you're working out all the time and that used to work for you, and right now your body composition is just not changing. Or maybe you used to be able to cut out carbs and your body would respond, but right now nothing is happening. If that's you, this video is going to help you understand how to break through that frustration, that plateau, and start seeing progress. This is also going to be really important if maybe the weight loss side has never necessarily been the problem, but you've been going on this constant yo-yo. Every time you lose the weight, you seem to put it right back on, and sometimes even more so. The second that you stop following a plan or a program, or you start to introduce a certain food or food group back in, you have no idea how to maintain the results that you've created. So this video is going to show you how we can do this once and for all and get off that yo-yo diet train. And finally, this is going to be the thing that allows you to find freedom and flexibility and build not only a solid relationship with your body, but a solid relationship with food. If you are ready to break away from the fads and not feel like you need to be boxed into one specific way of doing things, this video is going to be your answer. You're not the problem. The things that you've tried, whether it is Whole30 or keto or paleo or Weight Watchers, Beachbody, whatever it is, a lot of the things that they have been asking you to eliminate are just unrealistic long term. Whether it was something that you're just not willing to part with or something that was not going to be realistically eliminated in your stage of life, the things that you have been trying have just pigeonholed you into one way of doing things. There is no ability to implement it into your lifestyle, maybe now or as it continues to shift. And so what we want to be able to do is not have to follow a set of rules, but adhere to principles that are more fluid and can adapt as your seasons of life start to change and adapt as well. And the main thing that most coaches and programs don't address is giving you the appropriate information on understanding how to come out of a diet correctly. A lot of times they show you one way of getting there and then they leave you there. And then the weight regain problem is a really big issue. And so what we want to do is help you understand how to do this without elimination, how to adapt this to your lifestyle, and how to understand how to come out of a diet correctly. We do things differently here at WOTE. We don't focus on rigid rules. We don't believe in a one-size-fits-all template. We look at each person holistically from the mind to the body and understand how to bridge the scientific principles with the psychological principles so that you can feel empowered to meet your body where it is now and feel excited about giving it what it needs to make the progress that you're looking for. Before we get super deep into the principles, I just want to take a brief second to introduce myself and tell you why this work is so important to me. I'm Haley. I'm the founder and CEO of WOTE, the Women of All Terrain, and throughout my early teens and early 20s, I was completely stuck in the burn more, restrict more mindset. I grew up as a competitive gymnast where eat less, train harder, get the thigh gap. It was really the biggest thing that was celebrated. And so when I went to college and I stopped training 5-6 hours a day and I started eating like a normal person, I just rapidly gained weight. I felt lost. I felt confused. I felt like I had no self-worth. I wasn't an athlete anymore. I had no direction. So I went straight into the fads like so many of us have. I wanted quick fixes. I just wanted to feel better. And I thought that was going to come from being as skinny as possible. So I went down the hydroxycut route. We were doing colon cleanses. I was eating lean cuisine meals that totaled like 900 calories. And then I would go to our gym and try to burn off those 900 calories on a stair stepper or elliptical and just stare at the weights and have no idea what to do. I was stuck there. And not only was I lethargic, but I was having crazy binge episodes. I felt so worthless and confused and detached from this like strong, vibrant, athletic person that I knew I was. And so it wasn't until I started dabbling on understanding, okay, what would it look like to strive for strong instead of skinny? And so I found CrossFit. I started getting nutrition certifications. I wanted to learn everything that I could. And so I started getting really deep into the science of things. And I started to understand, okay, I can train in this way and fall back in love with fitness, and I can track my macros and I can do these things. But I kept having this repeated pattern of not doing things perfectly. And the second that I would stop tracking perfectly, or the second that I would have an injury and would have to take a step back, I would just constantly feel like a failure. And so it wasn't until I understood these principles I'm about to show you that took not only the science of nutrition and training, but bridged it with the psychology of behavior change so I could get away from this all or nothing mindset, perfectionistic lens, and actually implement things in a more consistent way so that my body and mind weren't working against one another. It was only then that I was able to build the leanest, strongest, most vibrant and excited, not only composition, but personality that I knew was deep down inside there. And so it was really integral in my journey to be able to understand how to build the best version of myself, not just the leanest version of myself. And that's what I wanted to give to so many other women, because I knew it wasn't just going to work for me. It works for women in menopause, like Jackie. She came to us because right in the thick of menopause, she was sick of diet culture. She was trying intuitive eating and it wasn't working. She was feeling more guilt and shame. She had no energy. She wasn't recovering well. She was dealing with injury. And so she came to us like there has to be a better way. And we taught her how she can eat enough and build her body up without having to sacrifice the foods that she loved. Taught her how to live in the gray area a little bit. She started training less, but with more intention. She lost 20 pounds with us, is maintaining it, eating over 800 more calories, and is now on the intuitive eating game, but successfully after training her hunger cues. This also worked for Janine. She came in with multiple autoimmune conditions. She had recently lost her dad. She has 2 sons. She knew that she was not going to be the next statistic. She came in and she lost over 30 pounds with us, which was the least exciting thing because the first time she started working with a coach who wasn't shaming her into creating changes or expecting her to be perfect or feeling like they didn't understand her lifestyle. When she was able to do things more imperfectly, but more consistently and enjoy the process, she started to not only see the weight come off, but her cholesterol went down. Her resting heart rate went down. She was no longer feeling anxious all the time. Her blood pressure went down. And for the first time in over 2 decades, she is completely off her thyroid medication, which she never thought was going to be a reality. So it works in menopause. It works for autoimmune conditions. But these principles also work for the prenatal and postpartum journey as well. Steph came to us. She had 2 back surgeries back to back that led straight into her first pregnancy. She gained over 85 pounds, was in a ton of pain, gave birth to her son, met with us a couple months afterwards, and just felt lost, disconnected, dissociated. Didn't really feel like she knew where to go, but her nutritional history was just full of disordered eating patterns. And she knew, hey, now I'm a mom. I don't want to go there. I want to show my kids that there's a different way. She wanted to be able to pick up her kids without pain. So she knew, hey, I need to fuel my body. I know I can't restrict here. I need to build my body up, but I'm having trouble putting it all together. And so we were able to help her not only fuel her body without guilt, she's a nightly ice cream girl just like I am, but also understand how to train to build her systems up around her back so that she could start to be the mom that was actively engaging with her kids and not sitting on the sidelines. She lost 30 pounds with us in our Finding Fire program. And then throughout the remainder of that year, she ended up losing the rest that totaled up to 75 pounds. And then she successfully got pregnant for the second time, had a much more enjoyable pregnancy, gave birth to a healthy baby girl, and now knows how to continually phase that nutrition without feeling like she needs to constantly eat less and work out more. Not a reality for 2 under 2 for her. So it's not just for me, it's not just for them, but the principles I'm going to show you can be adapted and aligned and meet you with where you're at and what your goals are now. And the way we're going to do that is by understanding how to implement the 3 phases to effortless wellness. And by effortless, I'm talking about how to make this simplistic. Taking care and managing of our health should not feel like an uphill battle. And sometimes I feel like we try to overcomplicate things and go after the really hyper nuanced things that may sound cool and look cool. But in reality, we just need to focus on the basics. And so we're going to do that through this 3-phased approach. And the first thing we need to do is build. We need to build a solid foundation. And so within this building phase, we're going to be able to put 2 signals together. We're going to be able to put the internal signal from nutrition together with the external signal from our training together. And this is where we're going to start to see predictability, understand how to meet our body where it's at right now, and take away the question mark. That's going to start with understanding where our metabolism is. What is our total daily energy expenditure? How much energy on average per day is your body utilizing, so we don't have to guess what we should be doing to start to see results. We don't need to guess if we should cut carbs. We don't need to eliminate sugar. We don't need to fast. We don't need to stop going out to eat. A lot of these things are just passively having us eat less calories or less volume and having us be at a place where we're eating below our total daily energy expenditure. But guess what? We can overconsume really high quality foods. And so we need to understand what that total daily energy expenditure is for us now, not what is it for most people. When we do that, then we can start to eat the appropriate amount, but fill it with the foods that align with our personal philosophies. So if you're vegan, you can do that on a vegan diet. If you are more animal-based, you can do it on an animal-based diet. If you want to be in a more organic, whole food lens, you can do that with creating all of the ingredients that make you feel your best. If you're like me and you don't have very many cooking skills and you need it to be simplistic and be able to go out and have some pre-cooked things, you can do that too. It unlocks the flexibility to not only have the foods that make you feel your best, but also that you enjoy along the way too. And we're all different with those preferences. So that's going to unlock the freedom there. But that's only the internal signal, kind of the input that we're giving to our body based off of how much we're eating for that metabolic rate. Then when we train to build, we're basically telling our body, hey, we might be strength training, having to utilize these muscles at any point in time. And so let's prioritize this loss or this gain, whatever we're trying to signal, in order for muscle. So you can dump fat at a higher rate. We don't need that. It's not usable. So it's basically how your fuel should be partitioned externally on your body. We need to have both of those things come together, especially if we don't want to be on that burn more, restrict more, eat less, train harder route. This is how we simplify things. We make sure that those two pieces are aligning, coming together, and then we can start to get there with the foods that we enjoy, so it's a more consistent and enjoyable process. So we have to start to understand what our total daily energy expenditure is if we're going to start taking action. And a lot of times when I ask women, hey, do you know where your metabolism is? They might give me one number like 1200 something or 1400 something, or maybe you got like a bod pod reading or some other type of metric that says, hey, this is where your metabolism is. It's usually your basal metabolic rate that they're referring to, or your resting metabolic rate, which is really just the energy your body expends to keep the lights on. And so if we're just looking at that and then trying to eat below, my goodness, we're going to feel like we're eating next to nothing. And that's going to be impossible to adhere to, and your body's not going to feel great. So there's other pieces of our metabolism. Yes, we have our basal metabolic rate, but we have our non-exercise activity thermogenesis too. That's going to be blinking and fidgeting and talking and walking and our daily movements outside of exercising and sleeping. But then we also have our thermic effect of food. So we have to actually like digest and metabolize food, and different foods take different amounts of energy to do that. So our different macronutrients are going to have different energy profiles. So understanding how that aligns. And then we have our exercise. And a lot of times we like really overhype the amount that or the amount of energy or calories that our body is utilizing throughout exercise. But it really just makes up like the top 10, 15% of our metabolic rate, and in general starts to become more of that external signal. So we have to start to understand where our metabolism is so that we have a top line. This is basically going to become like our income. Then, based off of our goals, we know what our budget is going to be. And so if your goal is fat loss, then we have something that we are going to subtract from. Understanding that if we are going to want to signal more of like, okay, it's not necessarily like a weight thing, it's really just body recomposition. I hear that a lot. I just want to lean out. Then we're going to want to be closer to a pretty mild calorie deficit and be closer to like a 250 calorie deficit. That's going to signal around a pound of fat loss per week. At 500 calories below, we can be signaling around a pound of fat loss a week. 750 calories below, we're signaling around 1.5 pounds of fat loss a week. Now, hanging out around there, 1 pound to 1.5 pounds is going to be usually the most sustainable to adhere to without having hunger cues start to get like a little wonky, energy start to dissipate. And that's really the sweet spot. We don't want to tank biofeedback in the process. Some women can handle being in a 2 pound loss per week, which is around 1,000 calorie deficit daily in order to get there. But that's really the max we can go. And if that ever has you going below 1,200 calories, like we are not doing that. We are not trying to go as aggressive as possible. So the depth is really important when we're understanding our total daily energy expenditure, but the duration is too. So knowing that we should only be in an appropriate deficit for our goal for a maximum amount of time for like 12 to 16 weeks, 3 to 4 months. When we start to go longer than that, our body starts to adapt to lowered intake. It starts to turn off some of the other signs and signals, energy, motivation, and literally starts to utilize less energy. And that's when our total daily energy expenditure starts to drop. We hit the plateau. We start to feel really lethargic. It's hard to follow anything. And so before we start to experience that, we want to be able to catch that before it happens and understand that we shouldn't be there any longer than a 12 to 16 week time frame. Then we need to come out and maintain. We'll go through that in phase 3, but then our total daily energy expenditure tells us how much more we should be eating to maintain. So if we want to just go ahead and grab an initial understanding, there's a lot of TDEE calculators out there. So you can go ahead and grab this QR code and utilize this one. It'll take you here. You'll just go ahead and put in your basic information and click calculate. Now, remember, you are not an algorithm. You are not a robot. So this is just a starting point. Then you have to actually gather data and see, starting to track your intake from an empowered lens, an empowered view. Throughout this building phase, we need to start to incorporate the foods that we enjoy so we can actually see how it aligns with our progress. Now, this is going to give you a few different variations of different deficits. So maybe more of a mild one, more of like a mid-range one. And then if you're looking to gain, it can give you things here as well. So this can be a starting point for sure, but knowing that, again, we're going to have to start to look at how our body's responding and then pivot, because total daily energy expenditure calculators aren't going to be able to take into account your dieting history, which is going to start to impact your metabolic rate, any hormonal changes, medications, a couple things like that. Again, it is a starting point, but can be a useful tool to start to unlock a little bit of confusion so that you don't feel like you need to blindly cut out different food groups. There's a better way of going about it. Now, that's where we start. We start building predictability so we can stop questioning ourselves and saying, okay, I'm going to have to cut out all of these things in order to see progress. But then we have to get to this phase, which is the conscious consumption phase, which is where our body should live long term, what we want to get to. Nobody here should have to track their food for the rest of their lives. I don't, and you certainly don't need to either. We need to bridge this gap from building in order to break away from that tool. Tracking should always be a tool, never a task. And so when we can find success while we're tracking, then we're able to train our brain, our eyeballs, our hunger cues to then break away from that and continually still see progress without having to rely on that tool anymore. We can succeed without tracking, but only first if we have trained our body to trust what we're giving it. If right now we just try to hop into conscious consumption or intuitive eating, our body is going to be giving us all sorts of haywire signals because we've been over-consuming or under-consuming or really inconsistently. And so we have to start to train the cues first to then trust the cues in this phase. That's when we can honor our biofeedback and start to say, hey, is that true hunger? Am I stressed? Where's that emotion coming from? And start to make adaptable, habitual shifts based off of how our body's responding. It allows you to build this really freeing connection. That only is going to work though if in the building phase we incorporate fun foods. So we have to break away from that restricted all or nothing mindset in the building phase to see how it works. How can I have the pizza? How do I go out to eat? What does vacation look like? How do we start to build that into our life instead of avoiding it? Then we get to the place where it's we don't have to think about it anymore because we've trained our body and our habits to be aligned with that stage. So this is really important if you have found yourself kind of being able to follow a plan perfectly and then falling off of it. We've usually missed this phase of being able to train those cues and do it with the things that you love. So we have to get here if we're going to find long-term success. But then we have to come out of that fat loss phase. And if you're like me, I was like, I can consciously consume and undereat really well without thinking about it. But my body did not like that. I completely tanked my hormones by the time I was 22, and it was not a fun time. I avoided this even after understanding the science here. I was so bullish on this is going to work for other people, not going to work for me. I had so much fear here because I was so scared of gaining the weight back. And so many other women have shared that frustration with me. But this is where that building phase unlocks it. We're not guessing how much more food you need to eat. We know what our total daily energy expenditure is. We're not just immediately going there. We're gradually, from where you were at that deficit, increasing by around 100 to 150 calories every week, every 2 weeks, and we're maintaining your progress. We can start to continue to see compositional change, especially if we're prioritizing protein throughout this entire time frame. So as we're going through this, I don't want you to solely just focus on calories in, calories out. Focus on having adequate protein along the way too. Carbs and fats can lay wherever they want to lay, but wanting to have around 1.6 to 1.8 grams per kilogram of your body weight is going to be a good place to start. For some women, that's going to be around 90 to 120-ish grams of protein, a little more if we need to start to work our way up there. So understanding that we can eat more food, maintain where our results are, And this is where we build our body up. This is where we continue to thrive. If you feel like your metabolism is on the floor and it is nowhere and you cannot eat more than 1,200 calories, this is the phase that we need to trust, because we start to have this internal signal with our external signal when we train to build. And that's where we start to put on more muscle mass. I don't mean getting bulky, but this is where you are going to increase your metabolic rate, because for every pound of lean muscle mass you gain 7 to 13 calories to your basal metabolic rate, and that's also going to impact your NEAT or non-exercise activity. Muscle is really metabolically expensive. When we have more of it, our body has to utilize more energy. This is how we speed things up. So those are the 3 phases, and that's exactly what Jackie did. Remember, she came in and she wanted to intuitively eat, but she was not successful at first. And so we had to go through, take a step back, go through all the 3 phases, and this is where she's at now.
In reverse, I'm creeping towards maintenance, but I am up 800 calories from when you put me into a deficit, and I still haven't reached my maintenance. So I am feeling so much freedom with food. And it's funny, even because I had a friend say to me, I can't believe you, still not understanding what I'm doing, lost all this weight and the holidays are coming up. That was stupid. You should have waited. And in my head, I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm going to eat almost double the amount of calories that I did last year. And feeling great and strong, and I'm seeing how my body feels now.
And you're not stressed about it.
So this is what she did. She focused on the small, simplistic changes, one step at a time. She learned how to build, she learned how to consciously consume, and she learned how to reverse so she could maintain that. This is what she did, the 3 phases to effortless wellness. But this is how we do it, how we allowed her to find that success. And that was putting all the pieces together. If we want to go through those 3 phases, we have to address the mindset piece. We have to address the nutrition piece. We have to address the training piece. We have to put everything together and have a team that is there to support you individually. And that's what we do within our Finding Fire program. That's all great, but it has to lead to independence. And so understanding that we need to understand how your triad comes together, but then also teach you so that you can be the bird that flies out of the nest and can be independent and create the new forever you. So we have to start on the identity or internal piece and start to understand your patterns, your behaviors. Why have you consistently kind of gone through the same rhythm for the past couple decades? And it has to start with understanding these 6 phases of growth. We go through these 6 phases when we're trying to grow in any area of our lives, and understanding that we usually get really excited. There's potential. We're gonna make change. We're gonna lose the weight. We're gonna have that composition that we've always wanted. We start taking action. We see results. It's awesome. We're like, yeah, we're doing it. And then something goes wrong, or there's a really stressful time frame in your life, or things aren't moving the way that you thought they would, or maybe it's really hard. It's taking a lot of time or energy or effort. And so we just choose something else. And we get excited about it and we start seeing results, and then we start to have some hard pieces. And so we go through 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We're on this rabbit hole. Feels like we're on a hamster wheel, and we feel like we're doing a lot, and you are doing a lot, but we're not getting anywhere. So if you're ready to say, hey, I don't have time to just keep going in this circle, we need to start to understand how to hone in and utilize motivation when it's there, but know that we can't rely on motivation and willpower. And we have to understand where we're going and what our vision is and who we want to become and why we're taking action and how to make small continual changes and understand our self-sabotaging patterns and all of these pieces, so that then we can get to a point where we're informed, we're empowered, we can utilize this information to become the best us, but we actually get to where we want to go. We fulfill that aim, and we are that strong, confident woman that we know is deep down. It has to start there. And so you have a mindset coach that is helping you create that vision and helping you determine what are the small changes. You don't need to come in and change your entire life. You're doing a lot of things really well, I'm sure of it. But we need to align that with who you want to be and not just focus on the external pieces. We're not just focusing on nutrition. We're not just focusing on workouts. We're not just focusing on the number on the scale or what we look like in photos or what size clothing that we're wearing. It has to start with being open to shift our identities. Then we have to get to the nitty-gritty steps of how are we going to fuel that mindset and build muscle to move that empowered body too. And so on the nutritional side, we start to look at your data in real time. And so like I was saying before with your total daily energy expenditure, you're not a robot. We have to start to align not only where we think your metabolism is, but let's gather data in real time. The only way to actually see what your metabolic rate is now aligned with your dieting history and hormones and everything is by looking at your average intake across 7 days, aligning that with your rate of loss and your biofeedback. What else is changing? How's your composition changing? How's your energy, your sleep, your mood? And so we start to look at that in real time. We need to see your actual data. Like, what are you eating? What is it made up of? And then we can start to pull reports and see, okay, now after I've had data, I can see what your total daily energy expenditure. Let's find an appropriate deficit that is not tanking everything. So we need to start to look at what's going on in your world. So as a nutrition coach, I can come in and say, okay, great. We are increasing weights. We're not overthinking food anymore. I need to see what's going on with your sleep and your hunger. Where is that happening? What about recovery? What about your energy levels, digestion, stress? How are you managing stress? Where are you at in your cycle? All of these different pieces, because nutrition doesn't just exist in a silo. It's not just about looking your best, but feeling your best too. So understanding, okay, do we need to increase intake to actually be more adherent here to make it easier? Maybe we have cyclical hunger. Maybe we're having some digestive discomfort. So there's a lot of different things. And what's really fun in here is that we can turn certain things on, certain things off. That way you can really start to feel empowered by understanding your own data and start to say, hey, this is kind of the response that my body gives me. And so this is what I should do about it. Making it really simplistic for you to understand that with the help of your nutrition coach, it's like, this is the data that we have. It doesn't mean that we need to be perfect in our logs or have guilt and shame for eating cookies and ice cream or going out to eat, whatever it is. It's like, no, let's understand how our body utilizes that fuel and what we can do to make sure that we can have the things that we love and prioritize feeling our best. So when we understand exactly how to align those metabolic principles, we get to actually break away from cravings because we can implement the things that we crave and that we love, but have that bolstered with micronutrients and protein and eating enough. And that allows us to live a more flexible lifestyle. And we're able to adhere to these nutrition protocols when we have energy and we're not tanking all of those systems to where our body is begging for food. So it's helping you find the balance and pivoting when we need to pivot so that you don't need to question yourself, but start to understand how to read your body with where it's at. And then we need to look at the training side because that's obviously the piece that's really important on the external signal. But the thing is here is that we don't need to train harder. Strength training is going to be the piece that unlocks building that muscle mass so we can build your metabolic rate. That doesn't need to look the same for all of us. So if we're going to do anything consistently, we need to enjoy it. It needs to be simplistic. It needs to be something that is realistic. So we look at your time and equipment needs, and we start to completely customize your workouts to you. And we help you understand how to progressively overload. How are we going to continue challenging the stimulus that our body is overcoming? So we're not just lifting the same 5-10 pound weights for the same reps and nothing is happening. The time and energy that you spend during your workouts needs to be meaningful. You don't have all the time in the world. Nobody does. Your time is very valuable. So you need to understand how to be efficient and effective. And that's why we call it the MDE principles, minimum dose of effectiveness. So the time that you put in, you are going to immediately see that your body is responding and shifting your composition, but also feel your best. You feel empowered. Hey, I couldn't lift that weight before, and now I can. I wasn't capable of doing a push-up. Now I can do 3 full push-ups on my feet. Those wins are the most exciting. And so being able to have a one-on-one coach help you in each of these areas is how we can align what is sustainable for you. So you have your mindset coach that is working with you one-on-one to create that vision, understand the patterns, and continually move forward. You have your one-on-one nutrition coach that's helping you read your data, understand how to pivot, see the predictable changes, break away from that, consciously consume. You don't need to be perfect. You're training your hunger cues and guiding you through that reverse diet phase so that you feel confident in maintaining the results. You have your strength and conditioning coach who's helping you put the physical piece together, feeling empowered through movement, falling in love with what your body can do, feeling strong, capable, mobile, flexible. Like you're able to actually take that fitness and apply it and have more energy playing with your kids and not being winded going up the stairs and feeling like you are bulletproof, honestly. Each of those start to talk to each other. Our mindset impacts how we view our workouts. And if we feel like we are capable of doing challenging things, and our workouts need to be fueled by appropriate nutrition. We can't be starving ourselves to build muscle mass, and our nutrition is going to fuel our mindset. So all of these pieces have to come together. And so you have a real life human being supporting you, so you don't have to do all the guesswork and the legwork. But the beauty is that you're not alone in this process, because if we are going to create change, we're going to go through those phases. It's not going to be a linear process. We need to have a community of women that understand their journey. They've been in your shoes. They've had the fear of gaining the weight back. They know what it's like to have that all or nothing mindset with food. They also want to break away from these patterns. And so you don't only have the community of your coaches and the expertise, but having the community of all the other women too. And so when you find your fire, it's really about putting all the pieces together. We have to be able to support you on the internal side with doing internal work, creating the vision, but also talking to your coaches so that we can start to verbally address what's going on and work through that in the moment. You have the ability to understand your data in real time and work with your nutrition coach, but also understand the information. You need to feel empowered by the science of metabolism so you can use these resources long term. We want you to succeed without a coach. You have your workouts right there so you don't have to think about what you're doing. Whether you're going to the gym, you're working out in your basement, the garage, when the kids are napping, whatever it is, it's right there, and you just follow your daily checklist. It's about simplifying the process so that this is who you are. Our goal is for you to be able to understand how to put the pieces together and feel supported and empowered to do that. But the biggest gift we want to give you is independence in doing it on your own. And so that's why throughout your time frame you can connect with other women in the program. We have threads to talk about nutrition and training and mindset and recipes and being a mom. And you have lifetime access to those community pieces, hopping on our Zoom calls twice a week so that we can talk through what's going on in real life and start to pick apart what's actually happening kind of in the scientific changing world. Let's stay up to date on all that stuff, but apply it realistically. So we have to put the pieces together if we're going to help you put the pieces together. So I just want you to take a minute, if you've made it to this portion of the video and you have found value in anything, I just want you to take a moment to reflect. Is this really about the 20 to 30 pounds? Is this about the number on the scale, what you look like in the mirror, how you feel in your clothes? Or is it about something bigger? What are you trying to accomplish by having a stronger, leaner composition? And if you feel like you want support on building that, that's okay. Like, I'm here to support you on looking your best, but feeling your best and understanding your purpose and passion behind doing that. And so if you're ready to just take away the question mark and start taking action now with support from me and my coaching team, then I'd love for you to just take a second to fill out the application below. Just takes a couple minutes, like 1, 2, nothing crazy. And it's just going to break down a couple things for us. Where are you at right now? What is your goal? What have you tried there? What are the obstacles that you've continually had to overcome? And then we can just talk and see if we're a good fit, if the way we do things is actually going to help you get there once and for all. So if you're ready to create this change, if you're excited about being able to get there, maybe a little nervous because it seems a little different than what you've done before, I just urge you to bet on yourself. Take a chance, fill out the application below. I'll reach out as soon as possible. We'll talk about getting started because you deserve to feel the best version of yourself. Thanks for listening. I hope to talk to you soon.